This guy right here is a pastor named Gordon Klingenschmidt. As it turns out, he's actually pretty famous. He's a televangelist, effectively. He's been in the news recently, so I want to talk about who he is, what he believes, and why people are paying attention to him right now. So let me just give you an introduction. Let's start from 2019. He's been pastoring for 20, 30-something years, even longer than that. But we'll start in 2019. That's fairly recent, right? He has this guest on named Jim DeMint. Jim DeMint is a former Colorado lawmaker. Just listen to what he has to say here to Klingenschmidt. This one is from mid-November 2023.
And I don't think very many people are taking the time to really know that the Bible is true. And there's so many things such as evolution and the fact that the world is millions of years old. And the Bible seems to suggest it's just 10,000 years old.
Sorry, man, the Bible does not suggest the world is 10,000 years old. Look, you want to be a Christian and take part in your community and all that stuff, that's fine. No problem with that. But when you start making scientific claims that are contrary to what science says, that's when I start having a problem. The Bible does not at any point ever suggest that the earth is 6,000 years old or 10,000 or whatever. Televangelists and evangelical pastors read that into the Bible.
Satan's dare gets into a lot of those things of how we can see that the Bible is true and it supports science. Credible science supports the fact that there has to be a creator God and that the Bible is true.
Okay, wait a minute. The credible science says that the Bible is true and the Bible's scientific claims are supported?
There has to be a creator God and that the Bible is true.
I'm sorry, man. That's simply false. I simply disagree with you, good sir. It seems we're at an impasse. Your interpretation of the Bible is what says that, and it's complete nonsense. At no point does the Bible ever contradict the fact of evolution or the fact that the earth is millions of years old. You can believe that it does all you want, but it simply doesn't. The book of Genesis talks about the creation myth. It's called origin literature. The book of Genesis is actually, as it turns out, a combination of like a bunch of different books. And it rips right from like older stories. The Epic of Gilgamesh pulls stuff right out of that. Like directly plagiarizes the Epic of Gilgamesh, straight up. Word for word, practically. But it's really a set of like a billion different stories. As a matter of fact, we didn't, like modern day scholars, they did not organize the book of Genesis into chapters. This was done like a long time ago. And I guess it was done before people realized that chapter 1 and up to the third verse in chapter 2 is its own separate section. Chapter 2 should have started on verse 4 rather than verse 3. And actually, only half of verse 3 belongs in verse 3. It should be verse 2. Like, it's all disorganized and it's messy. It's about 17 different origin myths, different stories that were cobbled together into one big book. The book of Genesis is. It should not be considered a single book, and it also should not be considered literal fact. It wasn't telling history. It was telling origin myths, the type that you would tell around a campfire to kids. That kind of thing. So anyways, this guy, this lawmaker in Colorado, I guess previous lawmaker, is talking to old Gordy here. Gordon. Love the name, by the way, right? He's talking to Gordon about his backwards interpretation of the book of Genesis that does not match up with reality in any way. And I'd be willing to bet this guy doesn't know anything about what I just said, about the book of Genesis being made up of a billion different smaller writings and everything else. I bet he doesn't know anything about that. Quick interjection, this won't take long. I just want to say, if you want to support my channel, the best way you can do it is by watching this video to the end, or at least watching a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. YouTube's recommendation algorithm works off of watch time. You can also subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out my Patreon. Link is in the description for that. All right, back to the video. Now, that's a little thing, right? This guy having on a Colorado lawmaker to talk about how wrong evolution is and a young Earth is correct and all that stuff. That's a little thing to some people. But let's talk about some of the bigger stuff because it piles up. One more thing about the book of Genesis and his interpretation and everything about it being 6,000 years old. That 6,000-year-old figure is only subscribed to by a certain subset of people, a very small section of the population, of the Christian population. Young Earth creationists are by no stretch of the imagination the majority of Christians. Most Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses included, accept the fact that the Earth is like 4.54 billion years old. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses reject evolution, but at least they accept the Earth is older than that. The thing about the book of Genesis is in the opener here, it says, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth is formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, the darkness he called night. And there was evening, there was morning, the first day. And then he created man, and, it continues on through that. Like, there are 6 days of creation. He creates the sun, he creates the plants, and then man, and I don't remember the order of creation. It's completely nonsensical. The thing is, this whole section right here, in the beginning, between these three words, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, between that line right there, and God creates, light and plants and all that other stuff, there could be a gigantic gap there. You have no idea how long that was. I mean, if we're just looking at the theology of the Bible alone, the Bible does not contradict an old earth. Your interpretation of it does. And one more thing, with the original translation in the book of Genesis, actually, this section says that in the beginning, there was water and sky, basically. There were the dualities, I guess. There was the firmament above, the firmament below. That was like the actual writing originally. God did not create those, apparently, the water and the sky, but that's neither here nor there. So let's talk about Gordon Klingenschmidt here and some of the backwards stuff he believes. This one is from late September 2019. Just want to give you a little bit of a history on this guy. Check this out.
Let's say you're a Christian employer. You run a parochial school, your Catholic education for children.
Christian employer, and you run a school, a Catholic school for children. Okay, I'm with you.
And one day, the teacher comes in, and it's been Mr. Johnson. He comes in wearing a dress and says, I'm now Mrs. Johnson. You have to treat me like I'm a woman. Really? In a Christian Catholic school? You're going to force all the children to be re-educated and indoctrinated by a man who thinks that he's a woman.
Okay. First of all, guess what? People tell you what their pronouns are. That's just how it works, buddy. You told me that your pronoun was him. Intrinsically, you implied it with your name and the way that you present and everything else. Why is it anybody's business? You know what's even more fascinating? People tell each other their pronouns without even communicating a word. People tell each other their genders and their sexual orientation, everything, all the time. I mean, people like Gordon and Ron DeSantis and Florida in general right now are pushing this idea that you shouldn't be talking about pronouns in school. You shouldn't be talking about your sexual orientation or anything. But that kind of throws a stick into everything, doesn't it? It throws a stick into the spokes because teachers tell people their sexual orientation all the time. Miss or Mrs. Crabapple or whatever, Mr. Klingenschmidt. This stuff implies who you're with, who you're interested in. It's never indoctrination when people are telling kids that they're straight. It's never a problem when they tell them that. It's only a problem when it goes the other way. It's only ever a problem when somebody says, I'm a woman, when you don't believe that they are, or you don't accept that they are. It's only a problem when somebody is gay and you don't think that they should be. By the way, it gets worse from here, so buckle up.
No. You can fire that person, not only for the sake of religious liberty, but for the safety of the children.
Why would children need to be safe from somebody like this? Inherent in this entire conversation is the idea that these people are dangerous. If you're trans, you're dangerous. If you're gay, you're dangerous. It's in the background there. He may not even be saying it explicitly, although in this case he is. But it's there. These people, like Gordon and other televangelists that I talk about, Gene Bailey, Lance Wallnau, Kenneth Copeland, all of them, holds this backwards view that trans people or members of the LGBT community in general are dangerous for children. They set out to make that the narrative. And it's just wrong. Oh, and what he's saying here about firing them, apparently he's in favor of discrimination. You should be able to just fire anybody for any reason. I wonder if he feels the same about firing somebody because they're black.
Not only for the sake of religious liberty, but for the safety of the children and for their sanity so that they are not harmed by the lying confusion which has come upon them by an evildoer who is full of the devil.
Full of the devil. Okay, wow. Strong words. So if you're trans or you're gay or you're whatever, I'm saying gay, I'm including it in this, not because he explicitly said that being gay is wrong, but he does later. So I know for a fact this guy feels the same about people being gay. That's why I'm including it in here. We'll get to it. I guess if you're trans or gay or whatever, you are full of the devil. And apparently it's dangerous to kids' sanity. Not only does he seem to believe that it's dangerous to kids because these people are predators or whatever, but it's dangerous to their sanity, to these kids' sanity, to know that there are people out there that are different than them. Or hell, to know that there are people out there that are the same as them. That we can't have that. Can't have kids finding out that it's okay to be gay or it's okay to be trans. Unacceptable in this guy's, like, in his mind.
Which has come upon them by an evildoer who is full of the devil. But Mr. Johnson says, I feel like a woman inside. Is it really a woman inside?
Yes, scientifically, it is. You can look at brains of trans people and compare it to brains of males or females or whatever, and guess what? The gender that they identify with matches up with the brain of the gender. The brain of a female matches up perfectly with somebody who is assigned male at birth and is trans. And it's the same in reverse. The brains in MRI scans and other types of scans match up. So yes. And also, why do you want to discriminate against people? I don't understand. Why do you want to hate people for who they are? Do you know what Jesus said about this? If you really want to go down this road, if you want to follow in Jesus' footsteps, I'll tell you how to do it. Jesus did not say, you have to worship me to be saved. He didn't say, I am God, I believe that I am God, and you have to believe in me for salvation. He didn't say you have to be baptized in my name to attain salvation. He didn't say you have to even know who I am. You know what Jesus said? He said, if you want to be a part of the kingdom of God, all you have to do is be a good person. Sheep and goats parable. He said to the sheep, you gave me water when I was thirsty, you gave me food when I was hungry, you gave me a place to sleep when I didn't have a home, so on and so forth. And the sheep said to him, but Lord, we didn't even know you. How could we have done that? And he said, what you did to the least of my brothers and sisters, you've done to me. We didn't even know you. I.e., you don't even need to know Jesus. You don't need to know who he is. If you're a good person, you'll be saved. That's all that's required. Is Gordon a good person? Is he being a good person to the people around him? Is he being a good fellow human being by demonizing trans people, saying that they are going to hell and they're evil and they're full of the devil and they should be fired from their jobs and all that? What you did to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did to me. I wouldn't bank on going to heaven there, Gordon.
But Mr. Johnson says, I feel like a woman inside. Is it really a woman inside? Or is it a demonic spirit of lying that is now presenting itself as if it is a woman? It's not a woman at all.
Okay, well, you know what? Hang on. Let me step back. Listen again.
Or is it a demonic spirit of lying that is now presenting itself as if it is a woman?
Is it a demonic spirit of lying? Well, guess what? You don't have to make that determination. You know who does? The person does. As Romans says, the book of Romans, let everybody live their lives and don't judge. Leave the judging to God. If they are lying, they will pay the price. That's not your business. That is the bottom line here. Your responsibility? Love them like a brother or a sister. Love them like Jesus would love them. That's it. That's all you got to do. Don't judge and love them. That is what Jesus taught. Is this guy showing us these qualities? Is he showing us that he is like Jesus, walks in his footsteps? Of course not. Oh my God. Pray for those in authority. This is the little, what do you call it? Like the Chiron, the thing on the bottom of the screen. 1 Timothy 2:2. Let's just look that puppy up. 1 Timothy 2:2. By the way, there are a number of books that were supposedly written by the Apostle Paul, who, by the way, never met Jesus, didn't know Jesus, didn't know anything about it, knew a few stories about him, and that's about it. All he really knew was Christian culture at the time, but I digress. There are 13 Bible books attributed to Paul. He only wrote about 7 of them in reality. He quoted 1 Timothy 2:2. This is the chapter that talks about how women should be quiet, should just be in subjugation to a man, don't say anything. If she has a question, ask her husband at home, not at the church, basically. The husband is the head of the wife, and then the husband is accountable to God, and so on and so forth. Paul didn't write this whole section here about women being in subjugation to a man and everything else and being quiet. Paul did not write that. That is not what Jesus believed either. Women were a part of Jesus' ministry, very much so. This is just a section that was added in after the fact in an effort to shape culture, Christian culture, into what scribes wanted it to be in that moment. The people who are copying the books down added that after the fact because they didn't want women involved. Not because Jesus didn't, not because Paul didn't, although I wouldn't have put it past Paul, because the people copying the books didn't. Anyway, I found it interesting that he quoted 1 Timothy 2, the chapter. This dude's terrible.
If it is a woman, it's not a woman at all. It's just the devil.
I guess trans people are just the devil. Wow. Well, you know what? If you're a trans person, you're in good company. I'm the devil too. Or am of the devil or whatever. As an apostate, we'll be the devil together. How's that? Dude's wearing a Jesus fish here too, if you notice. There's a little story floats around about how Christians were persecuted, so they would, like, draw one half of the fish, and then somebody would come along and draw the other half to show that they were a Christian also. It's kind of a secret code or whatever. Not true. That's not how the fish was formed. The fish became the symbol of Christianity because there's a saying in Greek, and the first letter, basically the anagram, is that what it's called? The anagram of the saying spells out fish in Greek, basically. Something like Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, I think. And the first letter of each of those words spells out fish in Greek. So anyway, that's why the fish is the symbol of Christianity. That's neither here nor there. Facts get in the way of a good narrative that he wants to push. Acronym, that's what I meant, not anagram. What the heck is an anagram? Anagram, a word, phrase, or name formed by rearranging the letters. I didn't mean anagram, I meant acronym. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let's keep on rolling with this dude. Late August 2019, here's another video by this guy about hating people. You know, the way that Jesus wanted, the way Jesus expected his people to be, to hate others. Late August 2019, check it out.
Years ago, this would be, pedophiles recruiting and grooming children for their own, perverse pleasure down the road.
Of course, he's talking about the LGBT community. If you are gay or whatever, if you're trans or bi or whatever, then you're a predator. You're setting out to prey on weak or innocent people automatically. Is that what Jesus encouraged? Did Jesus encourage people to view their fellow human beings that way? Honestly.
Why don't we see this as a illegal measure of, recruiting children into sodomy?
Because that's not happening. And by the way, Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities, were destroyed because of their ill treatment of the poor, not because of their gay activity, fascinatingly. Ezekiel 16:49. Now this is the way of sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. Does that matter to this guy? Of course not.
I think that's exactly how we should see it. In fact, years ago, these people would have gone to prison for this sort of stuff.
For being gay? Yeah. And now we live in a different world. It's called freedom, baby. What happened to all that freedom talk? I thought you liked freedom.
Sort of stuff, exposing children to obscene material, children, exposing them to sexual and indecent material.
Who the hell's doing this? Where's he getting this from? This is psychotic. That is illegal, doing that. And it should be illegal. That's not happening. That is not what gay people are doing. That's not what the LGBT community is doing at all. That is not happening. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of that gubernatorial candidate, I think, for Pennsylvania, Doug Mastriano. This is back when wokeism was not like a big thing that everybody talked about, but CRT was the big thing, critical race theory or whatever. He was running for office, and he comes out there on stage, and he says this. This was early October 2022.
On day one, the sexualization of our kids, pole dancing, and all this other crap that's going on will be forbidden in our schools.
Pole dancing in schools. He thinks that schools have elementary kids pole dancing. That's the level that we're at right now.
On day one, all the graphic books that are in elementary schools will be pulled out.
Doesn't exist. These people live in a fantasy land of their own creation where they are the perpetual victims. Interestingly enough, though, what they're doing here, taking it that one step further, claiming that there's pole dancing in elementary schools, claiming that teachers are showing these kids like graphic materials and stuff, they have to amp it up a little bit, make it that much more extreme. If they can make it extreme enough to freak out the politically uninvolved side of the spectrum, people who don't know what's going on otherwise and might be in the middle otherwise, if they can freak those people out, they know they can pull them over to their side. I'm talking about the right, the far right. I'm talking about people like this guy, Alex Newman and Gordon Klingenschmidt and Donald Trump and anybody within his sphere, basically. That's the tactic that they use. They did the same thing with flag burning back in the 80s. I think 1989 was the big case on flag burning. Who was burning flags in 1980-something? Nobody. Nobody was burning flags. Nobody cares about burning flags. But the far right at the time used flag burning as this tactic. Oh, look at the left. They want to burn flags. They want to disrespect America because they hate America. And there was one guy that they apparently caught burning a flag or something, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And even the right-wing justices determined that flag burning is a form of speech, and they're allowed to do it. They want to take it that one extra step. They want to show you how extreme it gets on the left, even though that's not actually happening in any kind of magnitude or in any significance. Here's another example, 1950s case study about a black family moving into a white neighborhood, thus ending segregation officially in that neighborhood. And what happened as a result? The KKK went around to all the neighborhood families and kids and tried to make it more extreme than it actually was.
Some of the people are definitely against integration. And they have told my children that they have to marry, and my child doesn't even know what a is, but from the sound it has scared them, and they have come home just crying. Mommy, do I have to marry Negroes? And my answer in handling all the fears that children come in is that you can marry whomever you wish.
They got to amp it up that much more. They've got to make that much bigger of a deal out of it because it freaks people out, like this, like children. If they tell children not that you'll be allowed to marry black people after integration takes place, or after segregation ends, integration never happened. If they're allowed to marry black people, then they will be forced to marry black people. There's a massive problem of left-wingers not saluting the flag, not saying the Pledge of Allegiance, not saying "In God We Trust," trying to burn it. I mean, they got to make it that much more extreme. And what do we have here? We have Gordon Klingenschmitt claiming that gay people are not just living their lives, or just LGBT people. They're not just living their lives. They're indoctrinating your children, and they're doing it with a specific goal in mind.
Years ago, this would be, pedophiles recruiting and grooming children for their own, perverse pleasure down the road. Why don't we see this as a illegal measure of, recruiting children into sodomy?
I think that's exactly how we should see it. In fact, years ago, these people would have gone to prison for this sort of stuff, exposing children to obscene material, grooming children.
People still go to prison for that. That's just not what's happening.
Exposing them to sexual and indecent material. That's a crime. In fact, that's still a crime on the book.
It is a crime, yes.
In many states today, Indiana recently passed another law saying it would be a felony to expose children to obscene material. And
he says in many states it's a crime? Are you serious? Does he believe that this is not a crime in some areas in the U.S. to expose children to indecent material? What?
Law saying it would be a felony to expose children to obscene material, and yet these laws are not being enforced. The government schools all across America are still exposing the children to this stuff. It's getting...
Who? Where? Tell me where I can find it. Give me one example. One guy. I'm looking for one person who's doing this to kids as a teacher in a public school, as he claimed. I'll wait. This is absolutely absurd, and it should be obvious now exactly what they're doing, right? This is all the way back in 2019, and Gordon Klingenschmitt is still doing this exact type of thing. Blow it way out of proportion, make it way worse than it actually is, to freak people out who are maybe in the middle politically or uninvolved. Freak them out as much as you possibly can to drag them over to your side at any cost, even if you have to lie about an oppressed minority and make their lives even harder as a result. This is like an ends justify the means mentality here. It's justified to hurt other people if it means accomplishing your goals.
More and more obscene. And I think quite simply, they have accomplished a radical transformation of the culture using the government school system with kind of air support from the far left media and from Hollyweird,
Hollyweird, love it.
The satanic propaganda, the filth, the LGBT agenda that comes out of all these places. And the consequences, we can already start to see what's happening. We see.
I mean, I'm sure I don't even need to say it, but I'm going to say it anyways. This is just complete fabricated nonsense, right? This is not happening in schools. There is no left-wing indoctrination taking place by the media or any of that stuff. It's just made up. He lives in a fantasy land of his own creation here. Who is Alex Newman anyway? Let me just look here. The Foundation for American Christian Education. I bet this is our guy right here. Let's see. Yeah, this is him. Alex Newman is an award-winning international journalist. I bet. Totally. And this is coming from a Christian extremist website. Totally trustworthy, right? Award-winning international journalist. Awards we made up, but, award-winning nonetheless. International journalist, educator, oh, don't tell me that, author, and consultant who seeks to glorify God in everything he does. Pleasuring God like a young man should. Absolutely. God, dude. In addition to serving as president of the small media and information consulting firm Liberty Sentinel Media, he's written for a wide array of publications in the U.S. and abroad. Okay. Anyway, conspiracy theorist, insane nutcase is what I'm reading here. Well, now we know who Alex Newman is. I Don't know that I really needed to, but here we are. By the way, just a little side note, there's a book called Run, Hide, Fight, produced by a police union or a police think tank or something. And it's Winnie the Pooh explains to children how to escape an active shooter situation in their school. This is Texas passed this out to students, and I bought a copy. Cost me $3 to buy, $2 to ship, or something like that. How whacked out is that, man? We'll cover it on the channel once it arrives. That is just for real. Anyway, back to what we were saying.
Already start to see what's happening. You know, we see the breakdown of the family, skyrocketing,
breakdown of the family.
Skyrocketing abortion numbers, school shootings, the collapse of our society, the collapse.
Okay, and the school attacks couldn't possibly be due to the fact that there's a gun behind every blade of grass, right? Couldn't be due to the fact that everybody and their sister has one in their house. It has to be the left that's doing it. It's not gun regulation, it's the left. Totally.
Society, the collapse of our civilization, the erosion of our liberties. You see,
What erosion of liberties? What is he talking about?
Women are no longer prepared to be wives and mothers. Young men are no longer prepared to be husbands and fathers.
Dude, what? This is nuts. Women aren't prepared to be wives anymore. What does that mean? Does that mean like learning how to cook and clean and stuff, or?
Are no longer prepared to be wives and mothers. Young men are no longer prepared to be husbands and fathers. It is, an abomination. It's a tragedy of immense proportions. And honestly, I don't think our society is going to survive another generation or two of this if we don't get a grip on it.
This is insane, dude. Oh my God. Get help immediately. Holy Christ. Of course, as a pastor, a televangelist, he has to dip his toes into politics, right? Even though he's legally not supposed to. That's kind of par for the course with these types of people. Early February 2022, he decides to talk about Biden. Check this out.
More and more people are discerning the evil spirit that is influencing Joe Biden.
More and more people, okay.
They're saying, well, yeah, Joe Biden is a human, but he's being influenced by evil, and he's manifesting evil, and he's hurting the American people.
How? How is he manifesting evil? How is he hurting the American people or whatever? How is any of this happening? This dude lives in a fantasy. And honestly, I'm surprised they decided to go down this road. I'm talking the evangelical far right, Kenneth Copeland and Hank Kunneman, Lance Wallnau, Gordon Klingenschmidt, those types of people, the televangelists. I'm surprised they decided to go down this road. After calling Obama the literal Antichrist, now they're claiming all this whacked out stuff about Biden. Like, when are there people going to catch on that they're just calling everybody they don't like antichrists? Are people ever going to catch on to that, or what?
I think God is finally answering our prayers. And when the people see and properly discern the demonic spirit that is in Biden, for example, to kill...
Okay, I don't know what that jump cut was. I did not insert that. I'm sorry. I always try to make sure that my videos are always in a single piece, and I play a little bit of the previous section when I pause so that you know there's continuity and I didn't cut anything out. But yeah, I don't know what that jump cut was about.
Discern the demonic spirit that is in Biden, for example, to kill children, to hurt Israel, to promote the LGBT movement.
Isn't that funny? He says to hurt Israel.
Kill children, to hurt Israel.
To kill children, to hurt Israel. As we're finding out now, Biden is actually one of the most pro-Israel people on planet Earth. He even calls himself a Zionist. He has historically. Doesn't mean you shouldn't vote for him. I'm not a fan of what Israel's doing at all right now to Palestine. It's absolutely grotesque and wrong. But, not voting for Biden is a vote for Donald Trump, so there's that. Anyways, it's funny that he talks about Israel like that. He knows that evangelicals that watch his show are most likely to believe that Israel has to exist before the end can come. Thus, they are in favor of any policies that assist Israel in taking over the area or whatever. They don't like Jews. In fact, they hate Jews. They make up conspiracy theories about them all the time. People like this, people like Hank Kunneman. I've talked about these conspiracies 1,000 times. But Lance Wallnau especially has come up with a ton of conspiracy theories about this stuff. But they like Israel as a country existing. Hate Jews, love Israel.
Israel, to promote the LGBT movement, to stand against religious freedom, even though he mouthed.
How does Biden stand against religious freedom? What? He's a Catholic.
To stand against religious freedom, even though he mouths, "Oh, I like religious freedom," but then he rules against it.
He said then he votes against it. How? What vote did he take that voted against religious freedom? How did he rule against it? What executive order did he push through? What charity did he support that was against religious freedom? In what way? It's completely made up.
But then he rules against it. People are discerning the evil that is inside of this man, and we think the Spirit of God is rising in the American people.
So anyway, that's Gordon Klingenschmitt, if you wondered. Dude, it seems absolutely certifiably psychotic to me. But let me know what you think about him in the comments. I'm probably going to be covering him a little bit more because he comes out at a full sprint, doesn't he? Just comes out of the gate running. Yeah, tell me what you think. He also calls himself Dr. Chaps. That's telling for the feline overlord Tailbass. Thank you so much. Does he really? Dr. Chaps? Oh, this is a risky Google right here. A risky search to be on a live stream. Dr. Chaps. Sure enough, he does. He calls himself Dr. Chaps. Wow. And he also claims to have a PhD. Is that real? His website, Pray in Jesus' Name, claims he has a PhD. I don't even know if that's true. Let's see. He's got a Wikipedia page. Apparently, according to his Wikipedia page, he has a PhD from Regent University. Oh, it's a private Christian university in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So a for-profit college is what this is. Do they even offer PhDs? This is news to me. It was founded by Pat Robertson in 1977. Oh my God, dude. As Christian Broadcasting Network University, CBN University, and changed its name to Regent University in 1990. Regent offers on-campus programs as well as distance education. Wow, so it's an online school too. Is this like a Kent Hovind PhD, that kind of PhD? This is Patriot Academy or Patriot University. This is the entire thing. This is the school campus, what you see right here. And it's like one building with like a total of 6 windows and 2 doors. This is where Kent Hovind claimed to have received his PhD, and he got it through the mail. Before the internet, even. He did mail order PhD program. No joke. So here, it is like, it could feasibly be like a 2-story ranch style house. That's how big this thing is. Is that what we're dealing with Gordon Klingenschmitt, Dr. Chaps, that kind of degree? I mean, I have no idea. I don't know. This dude's a joke.